Hello, it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with another channeled message. This is a specific message. It might resonate with you. It might not. All right. So in this message, I'm picking up on a very interesting dynamic, I think, for some of you. So what I mean by that is this is a relationship dynamic between you, like you are one of these people, and another person that you are in personal relationship with. And that can be any kind of relationship. This might be a work relationship. It might be a platonic friend relationship. It might be a romantic relationship, but there is some kind of relationship pattern here that's cropped up, or there's a way the energy flows back and forth between you and this other person in that relationship kind of way. And if that's your scenario, I feel like we're meant to kind of we're meant to go deeper about that relationship dynamic to discover something deeper. And I feel like you would know that because I think that something has gone on here recently where it's kind of like, and it's giving like baby tower energy, but it's also giving like the first tower in a series of towers to come. Not big, horrendous towers, but just like something happened or you did something, you thought it was going to go a certain way. It didn't go that way. And that shocked you, but you had an epiphany at the same time. And it's kind of like this, and as you're doing that, something here is unraveling, but you're working with that energy. There's a very conscious unraveling. And I think that you're unraveling something here about this person that you're in relationship with. You thought they were one way and they're actually another way, or you equated some kind of meaning to something about this person and it doesn't actually mean that, but you've got to kind of step by step unravel about that person. And as you're unraveling something here to do with this other person and who they are and what they're asking for and what they need from you, whatever this is, you are simultaneously unraveling something in your mind, something structural. It's a belief that you have, a logos, an order, something. It's a way that you believe the world works or relationships work or how they should go or what you're expected to do. And whatever it is, it's a tower, right? So it's something that you have built upon, possibly thought for a long period of time and haven't really questioned. And this is exposing that it needs to be relooked at because something's not quite right here. So it's this like functioning dysfunction energy. And what I mean is it does help you to function because even though it's in and of itself maybe dysfunctional, maybe there's some kind of way that you think you're supposed to be in a relationship and you thought that that was like a way to be healthy in a relationship, but it's actually dysfunctional. That's for some of you. But what I mean is like you've got a working theory here, a way you think this works. And whatever it is incorrect. But it's important that up until this point, you have had this working theory because the fact that you have a theory, the fact that you have a way that you think things work in this relationship in particular or in other relationships means you can put weight on it and you can kind of put it in the background and like operate in that theory and kind of like get other things done. Where if you didn't have a theory at all here, it would be chaos and a soup and nothing would like kind of get done. So it served its purpose, but it is time for it to go. And that is what spirit, I think through this dynamic and through this relationship and through this kind of series of gentle baby towers is helping you to unwrap. But it's externally in the world via this person where you're uncovering things about this person that you thought were true or you thought this person expressing in this way meant this about them. And it's not true. So as you're unwrapping that, you are unwrapping something here about your worldview. And this is extremely, extremely helpful. But I think what this is that you've equated something about yourself with this other person, because I think you found a sameness between yourself and this other person. But whatever sameness you found is more on the surface of things, or it's like a symptom of a deeper part of you. But the root of whatever this is that you've identified as a sameness, the root is still much different. Like this thing, whatever you found here, and that you think it means something deeper than it does. And I think that's part of what you are finding out. I just heard anxiety. So for some of you, it might well be anxiety, but there's like, this is not the same anxiety in two people. There's lots of different ways that anxiety can manifest. There's lots of different situations internally and externally that can give rise to anxiety. This anxiety that you have and this anxiety that this other person has, they do not come from the same place, and therefore they should not be dealt with in a similar way. And I think something like that has gone on where you've tried to start a conversation here, or you've tried to deal in your relationship with this person thinking, okay, I see that you have anxiety. I didn't realize that that's what that was. Now I realize you have anxiety. Your anxiety must be the exact same as my anxiety. And here's what I know that I would want or need in this situation. Nope, your anxiety and this person's anxiety are not the same. And actually, if there's been some kind of transgression in this relationship or something, the needs are very different here to kind of overcome this anxiety. But you have to understand where the anxiety comes from. Because for some of you, I am getting that either you or this other person is kind of like the source of the anxiety here because of something that they did. And so that's very different here. And we'll talk more about that in a second, but I want to give this other example, right? If the anxiety thing is like too abstract, say you're dealing with two people here and they both have a cough and you're like, oh, we both have a cough, and so, we both need to rest for a couple of days, drink some broth, and like, we'll be good to go. But one person's cough is like some kind of new strain of pneumonia or something, and they have to go to the hospital and get some kind of antibiotic. It's not clearing up, it's because you don't treat the symptom. Somebody here is like trying to deal with this on the issue of like, well, you're coughing and I'm coughing. And so there's only one ever way no, you have to understand why you're coughing and you deal with the why. And that is what clears up the cough. And I think that's maybe for some of you, the tower moments or that you're having here, or like a repeated tower moment here where, and it's because you think that it's one thing. You think it's like you, but the issue is like different in some way and it needs something different. Does that make sense? And so this situation between you and this person, what it's teaching you ultimately is you've got to look deeper. You've got to look deeper because there's some category that you've placed this person in and it's not the right category. And it's like, if you looked deeper into this person, you would know that. And so it's not just, okay, I got to look deeper, because you could have been making assumptions about this person. I'm kind of getting that here. And it could be because you're like, oh, me too. And it could be that one person is improving in this situation and it's because they've kind of identified the correct route. And so you're like, oh, that must be the same for me. It must be the same, like my route must be the same as yours. But really, you've got to go on your own personal explorational journey to understand yourself and what's going on with you. And it's like not actually clearing things up. It's this kind of matchy energy where it's really, there's a skillfulness that's being asked of you here. And you're learning how to apply, to be skillful in something doesn't mean that you've just, you've got your toolbox. I literally just saw like a kid's school box where you've got markers and you've got scissors and you've got glue. Okay, great. You've got all of those things. And so does this person. It's about how you use them. If you get a coloring book and you fill it in entirely with glue because you think that's what you're supposed to apply to the coloring book, you're going to have a very different outcome than the kid who doesn't glue all the pages together. You see what I'm saying? So it's not just about getting all of the concepts. It's about becoming skillful in their application, because there's a misapplication here. Somebody here may have a deeper knowledge or a deeper understanding, right? And that's what you're doing. That's what you're getting at, like the root of something. And it's to change your worldview about something, something that's not actually true. It kind of is true. It kind of functions most of the time, but there's key things that you're meant to uncover. And that's what I feel like this is. And it's through some kind of divine comparison energy between yourself and this other person, and through like some kind of curiosity. Now there's another group here, now that we're 1,000 years into this reading, where maybe it's not, or at least the entry point into this reading and to this work is not necessarily in the relationship between you and another person, but I am still getting that kind of like divine comparison energy, because you may well be comparing two people here where you're not necessarily comparing the relationship dynamic. Maybe for some of you, you should be doing that in order to understand the difference. So there's an alchemy between you and one of these people and you and another of these people. And that's actually why you got a different outcome. Maybe they look the same, but there's something beneath the surface in each of these people that makes all the difference, that makes one of these people a soulmate and another a karmic. And that's unearthing the karmic lesson here, the soul lesson of just because two things look very similar, because there's that same kind of energy here, they look very similar on the surface. But this is like scratch the surface with these two people that present as very similar. And I think with these two, it's not even scratch the surface. It's like accidentally sneeze. And it's just an entirely different beast, like beneath the surface. And I don't think you clocked that, but I think that you're confused and you've had some kind of experience. Again, it feels like maybe that baby tower, or this one could have been a bigger tower, to be honest with you, where something has come to an end and maybe you were betrayed by one of these people. Everything kind of came crashing down and you're like, then you thought of this other person, I think, that you were involved with, or maybe you had a choice between these two and you're like, well, I really should have gone with this other person. How did I miss that? And it's starting you on this same kind of like thought process of two things that present as very similar, but really aren't. And that's what you're learning, is that we've got to look beneath the surface. Now, again, this because I feel like, again, with this second one, it's not necessarily that you're comparing the relationship. You're comparing these two people, the traits that they have, the values. And I think, again, there's been quite a bit of assumptions because you've lumped these two people in the same category and they don't belong in the same category. I'm hearing they don't really belong anywhere near each other. But you have to be a person who is able to know that. And I kind of think, even quickly, because for some of you, like I said, this could be any kind of relationship dynamic. For some of you, this could be work. For some of you, this could be friendship. For some of you, this could be romantic. But like, let's take a work scenario here. So these could be two people that you interviewed, for a job. Maybe on paper, they present very similar. Maybe they have the same exact degree, maybe from the same exact school. And maybe they're around the same age. They both dress very professionally or something. They seem smiley. And so they look very, very similar. But when you scratch the surface, they're much, much different in terms of their aptitude, because we all know that, you can be in the same class as somebody else and somebody's just going to do what they have to do to get the grade and just to kind of regurgitate it. They're not really trying to learn or commit it to memory. Somebody else, maybe it's their life passion and they eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. So the aptitude between these two people is very, very different because they're engaged with the material in very different ways. It could be that their outlooks are very different. Their value systems, their goals, their vision is very, very different. And something about that really shocked you because you thought something about this was like plug and play. Maybe you had a good experience with one of these people and you thought that was it. That's the blueprint. That person was really perfect for this job, but maybe they pursued another opportunity. You had to fill their role. So the person that you looked at afterwards, you tried to find somebody that fit that person's mold instead of finding somebody that was a good fit for the job. But that person did the job so well that it's like they became the blueprint. Do you know what I'm saying? And so you thought you were looking at somebody that was very similar, but actually very different. And that could have blown up in your face. There could have been a big tower moment, like they blew up the lab. There was a big insurance claim. You guys had to close down for 10 months. Like it could have been that, or maybe they betrayed you, or they were just not very good at their job. You see what I'm saying? Now, if this is a romantic situation, it could be kind of a similar situation. Say you've got a type, tall, dark, and handsome. And so you had some kind of involvement with both of these men, let's say. And I just heard, never mind, I'll find someone like you. So you could have like involved with both of these people and you think maybe, let's say you date men and, both of these people are kind of like your type and you think, oh, well, relationships typically go this way because men are typically this way. But actually, again, beneath the surface, they might kind of look very similar, but beneath the surface, these two are very, very different. They have different personalities, different, again, aptitudes, different interests, different. But I also think that there's something to do with the chemistry between you and another person. And you kind of think, oh, well, I have chemistry because I find you attractive, but there's something else besides attractiveness about chemistry, that really makes something work, that really makes somebody pop, and it's not just their physicality. It's not just that they fit in a certain category or a certain box. And so you're learning, like I said, to look kind of beneath the surface. And that's where I feel like we could have some overlap between these groups where maybe that's where it started, this curiosity of like, I just heard it again, never mind, I'll find someone like you. And so you started by comparing these two people, but where you're really going to get somewhere is when you start comparing your dynamic with these two people, because there's an alchemy here, right? Where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. You don't get that spark here with somebody because it's something else. It's somebody's soul, right? And that's where I feel like actually you're going to pop over into like this first kind of a situation. But I do feel like possibly there's been a tower moment here, especially because I think you could have had a choice between these two people, or something here I think exploded very much in the external, and it's meant to kind of push you in deeper. Now, this is random, okay, but I feel like the letter D might be important, possibly even like double D, take that however it resonates. The letter C could be important here, possibly double C, like CC. It could be like blind CCing someone on an email or something, or like a reference, reference. Because remember, I keep saying somebody here is like the blueprint. So it could have been that you were referencing something else. Oh, okay, I get it. So there could have been assumptions made here because you were involved with somebody else and you thought, okay, well, this person had, I feel like you really maybe took somebody for granted here and like the qualities that really made the difference. And it could have been the little things because it's this person's like attitude. It's this person's like value system. So again, if these are people that maybe worked for you or something, it's like, how do you screen for attitude? You can't coach heart, right? Is something that you can coach every other skill, can't you? But you can't coach heart and you can't coach love of the game. You love something or you don't. Somebody here I feel like really showed up. They really filled in the crevices and the cracks in a way that you cannot replicate. It's kind of like you can buy a new house and you can get your house, you can checklist everything, but there's certain things that you can't plan for, like having good neighbors. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. I have no idea why I just sang an advertisement. Actually, my brain is where like old advertisements go to die. I don't know if that's like something here as well. Like, oh, advertised. I'm hearing there's a quote and it's like, good things sell themselves, bad things must advertise or something. So maybe something here was really advertising itself to you. Fell for the marketing pitch of a person. Again, maybe in an interview or something, real flashy, real shiny. And somebody else, they just are what they are. But it made all the difference. The ephemerals. The ephemerals. And that's reminding me of like the 4 Brahma Viharas. And the one that's really standing out to me now is joy with others. I think somebody here has a genuine joy with others, and you might be that other, or at least you were in the past. There was a genuine joy that this person had being around you and being around other people. And there's a respect that comes from that, and a viewpoint of every person is a universe unto itself. That might be a comparison here between you and this other person, where somebody here is not. So when joy with others is out of balance in one direction, it becomes exuberance. And so you may have met a person that presented like they were having genuine joy with others, maybe genuine joy with you. And really they were just being exuberant because they were fitting a mold. They felt like that's what they needed to do to get the job or to get the girl. But it didn't come from a genuine place, but they can present very similar. When someone is performing exuberance, they're not having a genuine alchemical reaction. They're not there and present in the moment, which is why it's so important to get with that person or to have the people around you that you can feel that genuine, where it's not forced, and you're around the right people, because your mental and your energy frees up. It's like we genuinely like each other. And then, it's like when you fight, you genuinely like each other. We fight, but we get through it because we know at the end of the day, we genuinely love and respect each other. Does certain things, the fact that you floss your teeth in bed, get on my nerves. Yeah, I think that's a bit gross. I wish you would do it in the bathroom, like those kinds of little things, but they're totally like, they're able to be overcome with these tactics and skills. That's another thing too. Like there's something here about like relationship skills, because a relationship skill, I'm hearing this, is determining which relationships are right for you and which relationships are wrong for you. And if you're in a relationship that is wrong for you, there's no relationship skill that you are going to master that is going to make that not be the case. Again, whatever kind of relationship this is, whether this is a working relationship, you all just don't vibe. It's, you're with a person, like really got it. They really understood your vision. You said 3 words and they just got it and they ran with it. That's special. You can't buy that kind of chemistry. So when you have that, you don't treat them like they are just fill in the blank of this job function. You treat them like they're fucking gold, because that's what they are. Anything they want, they got it. Because you cannot just replace that person. I feel like there is something here about that. Or looking at 2 things, and I'm hearing it again. Never mind, I'll find someone like you. Yeah. So now I feel like that's kind of the tower, is realizing that you had something really special, something genuinely irreplaceable, something that you cannot plan for, something that you can never, there's no amount of skills. The skills that you have, you can learn skills about how to identify something. You can learn skills about how to like keep, maintain, and even repair something. But what you'll learn is that it is far easier to maintain something than it is to repair or rebuild something. And I kind of feel like maybe there's been a tower moment here, especially if there's like this comparison. You chose somebody else over someone, and now you've got to repair another relationship where you're like, actually, this department doesn't function without you. And it's never been the same since you left. And I am at a loss. I don't know what to do. I don't know what is wrong. But I think what's wrong is you not being here, and I'm groveling and I'm saying, I know I treated you bad. Or maybe this is like relationship. That almost sounds like, what I'm saying? It's like, I know that I treated you badly, and it's because I didn't have the truth. I was so blinded by the light. Because again, something here could have been presented. It's marketing. That's what it is. It's marketing. I have determined that I need to present in this way to get what I want, and then it doesn't deliver. It's that kind of thing. And then somebody here is shocked. I feel like whoever this is that's doing the comparison, whether you are, again, in this dynamic, and I think there might be overlap here, right? Where you're comparing like in a private dynamic between 2 people, and you're comparing these other 2 people, but somebody here wanted to win. And that's the marketing thing too, right? Of like, I am saying whatever I need to say to jazz my resume up. I think someone here could have lied on a resume if that's the case. Like they didn't even have, like they just wanted the job. That's all they wanted. I'm really getting that there was a lie here, or someone could have attacked this other candidate or this other person because they just wanted the job. They just wanted to win. It's very cold. They just wanted, and then they reduced somebody here has a lot of heart for a person. It's just a lot of heart, but they reduced it down. I'm always saying the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. They reduced it down to the sum of its parts. And then they went through a rote kind of checklist or a rote pattern. And so if you're stuck in this dynamic and you're like, you can't really put your finger on what's wrong, because it's like, well, they do that and they do this and they do that, but you're not feeling it, and it's because it's just empty. It's empty. Somebody here wanted to win. And I think it's whoever's comparing this, like, again, I'm hearing, never mind, I'll find someone like you. So that's like, I just wanted to win. Because if you believe that people are unique and that when you find a good one, that's just not a guarantee in life. Whether it's a friend, whether it's somebody that you're working with, I think sometimes because we live in a world, at least like those of us that live in the West or like in the first world countries, like you have this kind of replaceable, if I break this, I'll go to the store and get another one. Even if it's going to set me back a couple bucks, it's something that can be done. People aren't like that. And we don't interact a lot with people in our society, but, we interact with them through a screen or something. Somebody here is genuinely irreplaceable and should be like exalted because of that. And I don't think that person's asking for that, because the special thing is that they're special to you. There's a special kind of alchemy or something. Somebody here is like realizing that they wanted to win, and winning in some way is very king of swords, very like cut off emotionally. Somebody thought they were going to win if they cut off emotionally and just went through some kind of checklist, went through some kind of motions, or chose somebody else that like on the surface looked like they had everything that this other person had, instead of being like, I cannot replace you. I feel like that's what I cannot replace you. I've tried. Maybe for some of you, if you're on the other side of this and like if the energies are switched and that somebody did you super dirty and like chose somebody else, like, yeah, I feel like that somebody here, that's the tower moment, is realizing that somebody here just cannot be replaced. And that they were too stubborn to see it because they wanted to win. And this has a lot to do with like reputation. This has a lot to do with being seen a certain way. So if this is a job, this person that wanted to win didn't give a single flying fuck about the job. They don't want to be good at the job. They don't feel it's not a calling. They're not, I'm picturing somebody working with people. So it's like, they don't care about that population that they're meant to serve. They only care about themselves. They just want to win and like be strategic. It's about their ego. So of course, somebody like that's going to suck compared to somebody who's the job. I'm hearing from miscongeniality. Somebody here could be miscongeniality. Again, that's that joy with others versus like the exuberance. It could be this like miscongeniality energy because of course Sandra Bullock's character, she's a little klutzy a bit, she's the job. I'm the job, right? So what's wrong with me? You're the job. I'm the job. So what's wrong with me? And it's that he's a man and she's a woman. And so she's in that film, she's an FBI agent, which is like a very physical role. So she's not concerned about her appearance. She's at the gym every single day trying to get stronger so she can run away from the bad guys, And so she's got to get into that pageant and she's got to like straighten her hair and get her waxes done. And it's like, she cleans up really, really well. It just hasn't been her focus. And so there could be somebody here, they don't come off super polished, but they are still nice. Like Sandra Bullock is a beautiful woman. So even when she looks frizzy, I hate movies like that where it's like, okay, let's also spin reality for a second and pretend that Sandra Bullock is like not gorgeous, even when her hair is frizzy, but yeah. So it's like, oh, well, so somebody here is just like much more polished. It's the marketing thing. Again, like, so somebody here fell for the marketing of somebody and somebody here has like actual value system of it. And so when that person who is the actual, again, I'm hearing that like, I'm the job, you're the job. So what's wrong with me? Like when they finally get pushed through whatever training or whatever program or whatever time in their life, that is the person that's going to blossom and fully be everything because they got their values right and they actually are the thing. They went through the hard part. They put themselves through the paces and they're going to have time to do their hair or to have somebody do their hair. And that's when that person's just going to be the everything package. And I think for some of you, that's what you're realizing. Somebody here, whoever's realizing this, I wish I could take back my words. And then there's this I love you unconditionally energy that's kind of hanging up in the air here. They could be realizing that somebody, there's a confusion about what I love you unconditionally means because somebody here had real love and somebody here just is exuberant, wants to look a certain way, just wants to win. And those are just two, I can't stress it enough. Those are two very, very different energies. But it's not that love doesn't come with conditions because I think personally a condition that should exist in every relationship is respect. And somebody here just tried to toss somebody out like they were the trash. They didn't fight for somebody that they should have fought for. And I think whoever this is, there's kind of annoying people in the world. They're like, you should have fought for me. And they set up bullshit scenarios in your relationship to make you have to fight. It's games, Somebody here genuinely deserved to be prioritized to be like, because they're not looking to be fought after, but they should have been, because they make the difference. And so the other person didn't do that, and there was not a condition maintained of respect. So it's like, I love you no matter what, but you don't respect me, and I have to learn how to respect myself. So I'm going to move away from you. It could be something here like that. So somebody's learning something about what conditions go on love. It could be that there's some weird conditionality. Oh yeah, I think there definitely is, because it's just superficial. There's a marketing person here that's just only the superficial marketing is correct, right? It's not the heart of it. And I think there may well be conditions of like, you need to make me look good, and if you don't make me look good, then I don't want to be around it. You need to be successful. And if you have a hard time and I'm not standing by you, there are conditions. And I think somebody else, there were conditions with the healthy person, but the condition was respect is what I'm getting. And that person was not respected. And so they left, and they should have left. And so I think somebody here made up some kind of, they needed to blame this person. And they were like, oh, well, their standards are just too high. I'm also hearing, I watched a short the other day where this guy was saying that one of his friends was like, you're so lucky that your girlfriend is low maintenance. And what he means was that she wasn't always like asking him for money or something for certain things. And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. To me, she's extremely high maintenance, because I've been in the kinds of relationships where all somebody wants from me is like my credit card, and, to go out and just to provide them like a high lifestyle. I've been in those. And to me, that's actually more low maintenance than the relationship that I'm in now, because my girlfriend, I don't know if they were married or whatever now, she actually holds a high bar for me. I have to be like the best version of myself. I have to be present. I have to be healthy. I have to be, healthy in terms of my relationship dynamics, but also like we keep each other healthy. We go on walks together. We actually sit and talk out our issues. That's actually very high maintenance. It's just high maintenance in a different way. And it's because she respects herself, and she expects me to respect myself and to respect our relationship. That's what this is. Somebody here, and I think that's maybe the comparison between these two individuals, somebody here may well be high maintenance in terms of they want it's the marketing. Somebody here is about marketing. I just keep coming back to that, marketing themselves a certain way. And so they come off very similar as the other thing, but they're not the real deal. But they maybe are very good at presenting that way. So somebody here wishes that they could take back their words. I think they could have said something like mean or cruel because they wanted to win. And so they could have chosen somebody else over this person, and they did it in a very flippant, cold, like cut off kind of a way. And they wish they could take that back, because now their life is not as together as it seems. And they're constantly being reminded of this other person, and possibly the person that they love and they should have respected. Their life wasn't as together as it seemed, but they weren't really in a safe situation with this other person emotionally, for sure. So I don't know that was spoken about or dealt with in a way that somebody here was just not stable for another person. And I think stability, emotional stability, there's something here. I think I go back to what I was saying in this first group, anxiety. Somebody here, I think, genuinely has anxiety, and another person, I think, causes anxiety, really. That's what they actually do. I think they do experience some level of anxiety and like frustration, but it's like something more akin to mood swings here in this other person. So anxiety is like just the tip of the iceberg. And it kind of goes to self-awareness, because somebody who has anxiety, they'll eventually know that they have anxiety. And that is a result of them doing their shadow work and actually looking very deeply into themselves. And what they spit out is correct. I have anxiety. This other person hasn't looked at themselves, is not very self-aware. And they go, yeah, I have anxiety. But really this person has like a mood disorder. They're very unstable at their core. So they need to address that. And that's going to look much different than someone addressing just their anxiety, just straight up anxiety. And this person's mood instabilities. And for some of you, that might be you, and again, you are comparing yourself to this other person. Well, we both have anxiety, but your anxiety is something much different than this other person. Maybe that's them, take this how it resonates. But if that person is just going to say, well, we both have anxiety, so somebody here is correct about that. And so they're asking for things that are genuinely appropriate to them and their situation. I need this, and they're probably asking for stability, I need you to not, but they don't want to blame this other person, because this other person has kind of misdiagnosed themselves as just having anxiety when they have like some kind of, I really think it's a mood disorder. I'm not diagnosing anybody. I'm not qualified to do that, but there's something much deeper. And yes, they have anxiety, but it's like, It's something else. That's just one part of a very complex equation. It's not like you just have one thing and then because you have one thing, it can't be anything else. Like there's something else here. It's much more unstable. And I feel like somebody here is just not willing to address that. Maybe you've been in a relationship with somebody with anxiety before and you were like, yeah, but they managed their anxiety. It wasn't taking up like the entirety of our relationship. It didn't equate to this. That's because this other person does not have just anxiety. It's something that requires a deeper look, but they don't want to do that. It's like I think somebody here is intentionally evading the proper like classification, which in this case could be a diagnosis. Take that however it resonates, but if you can get to the root, diagnosis is something that scares people in mental health, but it's a language for the professionals. Diagnosis is mostly for professionals and like behind the scenes, because that's the way they communicate with each other. This is the patterning because they know the root of it. They know there's a lot of information in a term for a professional, for someone who is educated in that. If you have borderline personality disorder, that means something very specific to a professional. And it means that they have a shorthand and understanding, okay, generally speaking, this is what I'm dealing with and this is the root and this is what needs to be addressed. And we're going to fill in like this, that I know what questions I need to ask. There are specifics I need to know, but I know how to get to what I need. I know what I need to know and how to get to the specifics of that. And that goes back to what I was saying before is these two people present as being very similar, but it's a matter of, wait, I need to look deeper, but it's also a matter of having the skill set. Right? And if you don't have the skill set, there's no shame in going to somebody a professional who does have the skill set. So there's somebody here. And that's potentially caused the tower moment, maybe between you and this other person and it's because maybe somebody here wants to win, and that could be tied to some kind of emotional instability here. When I don't feel like I'm winning, then I get really emotionally unstable and I act really foul and in ways that are not easily remedied. I blow up my relationships. That is much different than I have anxiety, right? So yeah. And somebody here also, like, they go through the cycle where like they wish they could take back their words. Like they don't have like a level of control, over something here like that. We also have, I left when I saw you with someone. I wish I had treated you better and I'm afraid to contact you. So there could have been something similar that went on with both of these people, or again, you and this person that you're involved in a relationship with, maybe you both had a very similar experience, and one person could have like leaned in to an experience I want it to be more than friends. Somebody could have like slept with somebody else. And it's because they were triggered, but it's like in an incredibly mood instability kind of way. They got themselves in a situation that they couldn't clean up. That to me, that's like maybe borderline personality disorder or something else. There's something like that. But don't be scared. If that's you, don't be scared of the diagnosis, because the diagnosis means that you're closer to finding the root and you can address the root. And then all this is going to stop, because it takes some effort, but it can go away. And I'm not saying anybody has borderline personality disorder. Like I said, it could be something else. I'm just using that as an example. But yeah. And I think that causes some kind of anxiety in this other person, the fact that somebody is so emotionally unstable. And so the reassurance that this person needs is that you've gotten to the root, because somebody here kind of knows our anxiety isn't the same, because one of us has our shit together and the other does not. Like, that needs to be addressed here. And if somebody's in denial about that, which I think that they might be, because they're trying to say, oh, look, we're the same. Okay. So that brings me to the last point, if you're still listening, because I've been talking for a while, but, before I was talking about the letter D might be relevant. The letter C might be relevant. But I'm kind of getting like DC energy, which I just saw like the comics. Somebody here could be like really into comics. Maybe like something in the DC universe might stand out. Or they could have a favorite character from that. I don't know. Also, Washington, D.C. just stood out. So maybe this is like politics as well. Like if somebody appearing very similar, these could be political candidates that appear very similar, but are actually very different. This could be maybe you and another person's, like maybe you vote for the same party, but you actually have very different reasons for doing that, or like political beliefs. Maybe that's caused some kind of fight or tower moment here or something. But the other thing that I'm getting actually very strongly is like DC it stands for direct current, like in electricity. And with all this tower energy that I'm picking up on, these kind of like baby towers, and like it has to do with electricity. Electricity is like the way that energy is flowing, right? So I feel like that's another thing, is you've got like a DC current, which is a direct current, which means it only flows one way. Something here only flows one way. And it needs to be identified. This is a DC current. Means somebody here, I think like a mood instability person, is not able to regulate internally. And so it generates energy that then they shoot outwards, but it only goes in one direction because this other person doesn't have that same internal experience. Does that make sense? You both might experience anxiety. Somebody here can deal with it, somebody cannot. Okay, so it needs to get identified as opposed to an AC current, which is an alternating current. And that is a current that will actually run both ways. And in this scenario, that to me looks like more Libran. It looks like more of a relationship, tossing the ball back and forth. And it could be that with one of these people, you have more of a Libran dynamic where the ball goes back and forth, the conversation flows back and forth well. And that could be the kind of alchemy that the two of you have, where it's really just one-sided. Maybe you just always feel like you're doing something for this other person. They never really help you out, you know? There's a need to identify how the energy moves in this dynamic. And I think for some of you as well, I think especially with this, somebody here who maybe has a mood instability, they could be triggered by a relationship that is supposed to be a DC current. Like, again, if you're with a professional, y'all are not having a Libran dynamic. And if you are, run, because you should not be. One of you is an expert in something that is supposed to be giving to another person. And that might not be the case. So they could be triggered because somebody is actually in an appropriate energy. And again, okay, I keep bringing up borderline personality disorder. That's going to resonate for somebody. But I know I don't have a master's degree in psychology. I have a bachelor's. I'm not a therapist. I'm not considered an expert in the field, but I have taken college level courses with people who are experts that had to go over my work and stuff. And one thing about borderlines is I learned in a class, they recommend if you have borderline patients, you only have 2 at a time because they're extremely overwhelming, because somebody who has borderline personality disorder will think that you're supposed to be their best friend. And when you try to hold a professional boundary with them, they will get like really butthurt and they'll blame you. And they'll say, well, this relationship, why aren't you being nice with me? Or like, why aren't you being friendly? But you have to hold strong boundaries. And it's funny because the thing that they need most is boundaries. But they'll kind of push back. These are the people that'll try to text you at dinner time, get angry as though they texted a friend when you hold a boundary of like, if this is not an emergency. And that's why I don't want to get too deep into this, but it can snowball out from there where you have to kind of, not everybody can really work with that kind of a patient because it requires a certain skill set, you know, and a level of patience. So it's about understanding what the dynamic should be and how the energy is flowing, and that's causing some kind of a problem or some kind of an issue. It could be here that somebody has anyways, I feel like you get the point. With that. The other thing that I'm getting is AC/DC. That might be relevant here. Maybe both of you listen to AC/DC. I just heard na 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 thunder. Oh yeah, because that's the tower. So that's the tower energy. So it could be that there's thunder, like the rumblings. When somebody rumbles, yeah, that's what I'm getting. Okay, because, thunder is associated with lightning, of course. It's the sound that the lightning makes. So there's a different kind of sound. Somebody here is maybe much different after an argument, or like debriefing an argument, or the arguments are a very different quality here between these two people, or the contributions here, they're just not the same. And the last thing that I'll say, I know this has been an extremely long reading, never defend betrayal. I think somebody here needs to know that. If you're this person that has like a mood disorder and there's like some kind of excuse that you want to make, and it's because you want to sweep this under the rug because you're actually afraid, and flip the energies. If you're dealing with somebody like this, you're actually afraid because you don't know what the answer is. And the answer is, I think you need help. You need assistance. And we live in a world where there is assistance, that you can actually get that. Maybe this is like an ego. Maybe that's the tower energy of like, well, I'm fine and I don't need anybody. Well, we all need somebody. And maybe this is a time when you need somebody, and you should not feel ashamed about that. And it could be that you're like, well, my friend was helping me, or did they sleep with you? Did it end in betrayal? Because that's not help. And this is another thing. Sorry, this is so long. In my like psychology class, everybody who has in America some kind of degree in psychology, or where they're going to be working in that field, you have to take what's called an ethics course. And you learn that you shouldn't be sleeping with your patients. It's not necessarily illegal, but it is an ethical thing because it confuses the dynamics and it confuses the boundaries, and you yourself are profiting when you should not be. It should be about that patient, because one thing a therapist is supposed to be is a healthy mirror. So no, your friend is not a therapist. And some people have issues that do require a certain level of professionalism, and it can't be worked out necessarily with a friend. So I think because I'm hearing that very strongly of like, well, I was helping them or they were helping me. No. Somebody had an orgasm, I think, or wanted to. Very selfish motive. It's not assistive in any way. But I think one thing to stick to, if you're that person, never defend betrayal. There's not an excuse for it. Because I think somebody here betrayed somebody. I don't think they apologized. I think they actually got mean or like wanted to win. They possibly introduced a competitor here. and then wanted to either lie and say that there was no help going on here. Because even if somebody had the intention to help, they don't have the skill set to, because they cause more harm than good. And then they're unable to take accountability for it, which is really gross. And also somebody who should, if this is a professional, should not be working in that industry. I'm so sorry, this has been so long. I think for some of you, you do need to bring this to some kind of a regulatory board, because that person may require some level of oversight if that's what they're doing. That by other professionals, people who are not lay people, because you yourself might be a lay person. Again, the dynamics are not Libran. So you're having some kind of relationship that you think you're both on the same level, but somebody has some kind of professional knowledge that they may be weaponizing. So get other professionals involved that can monitor this person and can see right through their bullshit and know if they're being ethical or not. All of a sudden, I felt like somebody was sweating here. That might be uncomfortable for some of you to hear or to realize. But yeah, I think for some of you, again, that might be the assistance that you need is just, hey, I don't know if this is okay, what this person's doing. And I think, yeah, because I'm hearing you might need healing from that. They can maybe recommend someone who can help you work through possibly being taken advantage of. But anyways, I think I'm going to leave that there. But that's one thing that I think will help is just never, don't excuse betrayal, not in your own mind. Because I think you're so desperate for an outcome here. And you think that that is maybe the source of this person's anxiety. You think maybe that's what this person wants to hear is something, they want to hear you gloss over a betrayal or something. But that doesn't put somebody at ease here, that a tower moment is not going to happen again. They actually need to hear you speak about the root of the problem. They need to hear that you're in therapy for the root of the problem, that you understand that betrayal is never justified. And if you start to make excuses or lie, then you're just adding more problems that this person, more red flags, more fear into this person. You're just pumping up their anxiety more and more and more. And so I feel for a lot of you, this honestly is a soulmate, because it's like you getting to the root of your issues is what this person needs. That you being the best version of yourself is going to calm this person's anxiety. Because I think this is a scenario for a lot of you where one person is not regulating internally and then pushes that energy into somebody else. It's that DC current. It's tower energy, but it goes one way and one way only. So the way out of this is not, especially if you're a baby at relationship talk and you're like, I learned that it's a two-way street and that, you have this like Libra. No, if that's a misuse of that knowledge, it's not a skillful application of those tools. A hammer is not the tool for every project. And this like, okay, now don't you have something that you want to own up to? I feel like there's a situation here where it's like, no, because the standards are different. For some of you, there's like a professional here. The standards are different. The standards are absolutely different. So no, it's not, don't you have something to, it's somebody here needs to take absolute responsibility because over their like internal experience. And the only way that they're going to do that and have any level of clarity about what they need to fix in themselves is that they stop defending betrayal because it's indefensible. And apologize. I feel like somebody here did not apologize. Instead, they got very strategic about managing their appearance or their reputation. And that wasn't the way to go. The way is to be vulnerable, to be soft, to admit that there's a problem. I feel like somebody here, that's what I'm trying to get at. They need to admit that there's a problem. And I just want to reiterate for this one because I feel like I'm talking around a lot of different issues and I'm throwing out a lot of examples. This is not going to be what's happening for everybody, but these are the things that are important to kind of assess, which I think for some of you, maybe it's helpful to have somebody who knows more about this, like assist you in doing that. So anyways, that's what I have. If that resonates, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye.